It's time for another edition of The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and before we get started, a quick reminder to support our sport this holiday season with curling gifts. There are books, among others, two about Team Gushu, one about Russ Howard, the second edition of Curling for Dummies by Bob Weeks, and the invaluable Black Book of Curling from the good people at Curling Zone. There are calendars, you know which one I'm talking about, equipment, I think any curler would love a new brush, gloves, pants, or shoes, and there are, of course, items from the Curling Show store. Remember, you can find the link to that store in the sidebar at thecurlingshow.com. Now on to our interview with Ontario's Wayne Middaugh. Wayne Middaugh, two-time world champion, long-time money winner on the Asham World Curling Tour, and the very first guest nearly a year and a half ago on The Curling Show. Welcome back.
It's great to be back. Thanks, Dean. You're doing a heck of a job with the show, and it gets nothing but positive comments all around the curling world.
Hey, I appreciate it. Since I'm not quite in the curling world all the time, it's nice to hear that. Down here in New Jersey isn't quite the hotbed, although we do have these two sheets now, so which you know is exciting for me. Anyways, Ontario zones. Let's start with the Ontario zones. You got through your zone on the B side, but there was, as there is so often in Ontario, a lot of blood in the water. A lot of favorite teams losing. Your thoughts on the OCA zone playdown format?
Well, you know what? No system is perfect. You know what? And everybody's looking for a great system. Do I think there should be some changes? Sure, I do. You know, I definitely think maybe the defending champion should get a buyback, and then maybe one of the team, the top OCT point getter, the top CTRS point getter, you know, pick some. But I definitely think there should be something there for the provincial associations to market. You know, it'd be great, I think, if the OCA could already market that Glenn Howard was returning this year as defending champion, and now he's the leading money winner in the world. You know, I think that's a marketing tool. People want to see Glenn Howard play. He's a great player, and he's a great person, and he's great for the game. So if they could advertise that already rather than 2 weeks before the event, that's a pretty nice feather to have in your hat. You know, on the golf tournament side, to say that Tiger's coming to your event, you know, I'm not saying that Glenn Howard's Tiger, but...
Well, it's a good point, though. I mean, you know, I think that the challenge is, it seems like if adding two teams makes it difficult for the event organizers, so you almost have to take two spots away somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think it does. You know what, we've done it before. It did make for some longer days, but the event is a week long now. Like, it's Sunday to Sunday. And you know what, to put two more draws in there somewhere, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, pick Tuesday, Thursday, for instance, you throw two morning games in there, away you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be good if the OCT got a spot, or in the maybe it is CTRS and OCT, so there's some reward for that. I mean, a lot of guys say, well, why should I be penalized for not playing them much? And that seems like a strange argument to me, because that's sort of life, isn't it? I mean, if you put in the time, you get a little more out of it.
That is life, yes.
Yeah, so I don't quite understand that. I think it's not a bad system. I mean, you guys do have a challenge round in Ontario, which helps, but some changes might make sense.
Yeah, and I know it's not quite that simple. There's always a lot more to it than that. But,
yeah, I mean, some of the conversations I read online sort of did point out some things that I didn't think about, to be honest. But anyways, your team start this year, Wayne, probably sluggish at best. Maybe not what we expect to see on the tour from Wayne Middaugh's team. Thoughts so far?
Yeah, well, I think it has lots to do. We played with a lot. You know, we've changed the lineup so many times. You know, we played Weston at the start of the year and didn't do well there, but we had 4 different teams play 5 games. You know, so we're not playing with the same guys, and then we go to another event, and it's the same thing. You're with a different team, so we switched around the team a fair bit this year.
So has that been having Trevor in the lineup, or?
Yeah, having Trevor in and Trevor out, and you know, sometimes I've been away for a few games. I've missed a few games there, so Pete skipped some, Scott skipped some, so you know, that makes a difference too. So everybody's been moving around a fair bit, and I think that has something to do with why we haven't been and we haven't played as much. That's part of it. You know, Pete's got a young daughter, and you know, basically a single father, and Scott's the same thing, a single father with a young daughter, and Ian's got a new son as well, plus another son. I've got 2 kids, so we're pretty busy at home too. You know what? And as much as we all love curling, and we wish we could play 11 out of 12 weeks, you know, life and jobs take precedence over that.
Right. Hey, not to get all deep and philosophical here, but you're talking sort of about moving along in life, getting older, having kids, that sort of thing. I've always thought that some guys love to curl and some guys love to compete. Which type of guy are you?
I love to compete.
Do you think, do you ever think about a day when you don't feel like you can go out on to big tour events and have a real good chance to win? Do you think you'll keep playing then?
You know what? I think one of the things that I've always felt that I could do is I've been lucky, and that I've been surrounded by great players. I played with Russ and Glenn and Peter, and the team I have now, everybody's a world champion, and the team that I won the Worlds with in '98. I've always been lucky to play with great players, and I think that's part of it is even though you might not play as much, when the push comes to shove, we might not play as well, and we might not get through the A side as often, but when push comes to shove, if we sneak through the C side and you run into us or a quarter or a semi, it's a pretty solid team. And the one thing that I believe is that I always play with people who know how to win. Every player on my team knows how to win, and like I say, and I think that's a big part of it when push comes to shove.
Do you ever think you'll be low like Bert Gretzinger at 50 plus, still out there?
I don't know. I hope I'm that healthy that I can do that. But you know what? All the credit to Bert that he can still be out there playing. And you know what? Where my life takes me in another 15 years, I don't know where that's going to be. But you know what? If I'm still healthy enough and can afford the time and everything else, I love the game. It's a great game, and it's been a big part of my life and Sherry's life for a long time. And I can't imagine not being part of it.
There's always mix, too, right? I mean, you guys would have a pretty good mixed team eventually.
Yeah, Sherry keeps throwing that out there that she'd like to try and mix for a year, but, Glenn Howard and I keep waving her off. So.
All right, hey, you're back with Ian Tetley this year. I don't know Ian, but there's a perception out there that he's kind of a hard guy to play with. Is that fair, and why has that combination worked over the years for you?
Well, he is a hard guy to play with, but he's got the one main, two of the main things that I look for in a curler. And one is he's a winner, a proven winner. How would you like to be the guy that, he's been to 4 Briars in his life and won 3 of them?
That's not bad.
Not a bad stat to have, and he's the three-time
been to 3 world championships and won 3 too, I guess, right?
And won 3. So the guy's a winner, and he's a competitor. And that's the one thing I want is when you come out to play, you're given 110%, and when you do decide, Ian only plays 5 weeks of our events, so 5 events before Christmas. But when he's there to play, and he gives 110%, and I couldn't ask for any more.
So you'll put up with a lot from a guy who produces.
Yeah, and you know what? He brings out the best in me, and he brings out the worst in me too. So, you know what? He makes me want to concentrate a little more and play a little harder as well. And he makes every guy on the team give 110%, and you know what? And that's sometimes it's a good thing to have on your team. Yeah,
there's a lot to be said for that. You don't all have to get along great all the time, do you?
And you know what, Ian and I, like I say, we've curled now since '94, and we took a couple years off there, but we still have a great relationship. And him and I have got into it on the ice as much as anybody. And I can remember back playing in the days with Russ and Glenn. Glenn and I used to go toe-to-toe on the ice all the time yelling at each other, but you know what? I couldn't have a better friend in my life than Glenn Howard. So, you know what? It's one thing to be out there playing to win, and it's another thing once you come off the ice. And long as people understand that, that's what it's all about.
You really have to get in Glenn Howard's grill to go toe-to-toe with him, don't you? He doesn't seem like the guy would go toe-to-toe.
He does. He gets pretty uptight, let me tell you. And that was back in a different day, right? We're back in the early 90s here. Glenn was a fair bit younger, and we both had our own ideas of how the game should be played. So,
hey, you've been sponsored for a number of years by M&M Meat Shops, and you're a franchisee as well. This year we've seen Kevin Martin, Mark Kennedy, and I believe Adam Enright go into the M&M business.
That's correct.
Is this some kind of model for tour curlers, a new business model?
Well, you know what? I think it's important that people believe in the products. We've had M&M's has been involved with curling for as long as I have, or much longer, actually. And they're a great company. They've grown well. They've done a lot for curling. And you know what? It's nice to see that the players believe in one of our sponsors, and they've bought into it, and great for them, and it's been great for us as well.
I mean, you've been sponsored by them for how many years now?
12 years.
Wow.
Since '94.
So, and then at the same time, I mean, they have ventured into a lot of other things, the skins and now the juniors. So hats off to them.
It's been a great relationship for both M&M Meat Shops and ourselves. We've been fortunate about that we own a couple franchises, and Graham McCarroll does a great job in managing those franchises. So it's all good.
I meant to ask you this, but when we talked about the zones, but I got to ask for your opinion on the U.S. format down here. I'm in a qualifier. It's a qualifier for the Nationals, 9-team round robin in 3 days.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, so you play 3 games a day for 3 days?
Yeah.
How many teams get out? 1?
2.
So. Well, then you know what? That's fair, because then everybody plays everybody.
Right, and I guess it's more fair than a double knockout like you guys run into in zones in some ways.
It sure is. Yeah.
Just a lot more curling.
When I was talking to Erica Brown /Tetley the other day, and she says basically she signs up her name and she's in the national championship.
Yeah, they only have 7 teams in the women's down here. It's too bad.
Yeah, that is too bad.
But the men's has more, but you can play anywhere you want in the country. You just you can go anywhere.
Oh, yeah?
So you got a team from Alaska playing in Washington, D.C. Anyways. All right, I'm going to finish with a run back. Wayne, I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
Okay.
Curling in the challenge round in Ontario.
I'd miss a grand slam.
Oh, really? Does it conflict with the Grand Slam?
It does.
Wow.
So both Glenn and I are going hard and do not want to be in that challenge round because not only are there some great teams there, but it would take us out of a Grand Slam, and both of those Grand Slams are very important to both him and I.
Right. Speaking of Grand Slams, the recent Home Hardware Masters of Curling in Waterloo.
Great success.
Yeah, I thought it was a great event. Nice job all around.
Kudos to the Kitchener people. Couldn't have done a better job.
Mike Harris's return to Toronto.
You know what? It's good for golf in Toronto. Mike's a great guy, and Donald is the club he started at. So
I had him on the show, about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and he was loving Banff. But I put him on the spot, I guess. He was probably trading emails with Donald at the time.
Mike's a born-raised Toronto boy. Like, same area. Mike and I grew up 10 kilometers apart, and he likes the area. And I kind of knew he was coming back. I just didn't think this quick.
Yeah, the guy oozes Toronto. He doesn't ooze Alberta.
No.
Hey, your number 5 ranking based on last season's performance in the Black Book of Curling.
God, we must have been good last year.
Well, they talked about a hot start. You did have a hot start last year, and then a fade.
We did, yeah, we did. And you know what? I think everybody we were trying to prove that we deserved to be one of those teams at the Olympic trials last year. We felt we were going a little bit harder, and there's a little bit more pressure on everybody else to play well last year. But when it came right down to it, we weren't at the Olympic trials, so that's the way it went last year. And this year, hopefully, we can turn it around come February and get hot in the provincials and keep Glenn honest and maybe set him back a game or two.
Right, he's got a lot of points already for the trials.
He sure does.
Hey, the new system for Olympic trials qualifying points.
Brutal.
Brutal?
Brutal.
What don't you like about it?
Brutal. You know what? There was nothing wrong with the system. The first year was good. I thought the second time around was even better if they hadn't have taken runner-up teams, if they just had stuck with winners all the way through. This system, I looked at it for 2 years, and I'm still not 100% sure how it even works. They pick 4 teams right off the top that go right to the trials. Pretty much everybody knows who those 4 teams are going to be already, or I think I do anyways. This 12-team event for 4 spots, the impression that it gives us is that you can come second, third, or fourth in an event and still get into the Olympic trials. And that's the one thing that I was always against, is that you should have had to have won something to get into those Olympic trials. You could just come, second or third at every Bonspiel, and then all of a sudden you could come second or third in this qualifying event, and you're in the trials. You may have never won an event in your life.
You did say that last year. I remember that you thought you had to win something, and I mean, you're a guy who didn't make it with the last format, but you liked the other format better.
Yes.
Interesting. All right.
It was a fair format. It wasn't the format's fault that I didn't make it. It was because we didn't play well enough.
Right. And and it did produce a gold and a bronze, I guess. So
yeah. To Gushu's, all the power to Gushu's team. They played great when the time needed to play great. They played great at the Olympic trials come the end of the week, all week long, and they played great at the Olympics to win a gold medal. Kudos to them for doing a good job and buying into everything.
The one criticism I don't agree with, though, is guys from the East to say it favors the West, because there's still a ton of points for the Brier. So if you are in it's definitely tougher to get to the Brier out of Alberta than some other provinces.
I would agree that it's tougher to beat Furby and Martin than it can be to beat some other teams. But by the same token, it gives everybody, once you get there, it gives everyone the same chance. The big thing is that everybody says is that there's more cash fields out west and
right.
All this stuff. But the bottom line is you got to win. And you go to a Brier and you win or you do well. You can be marketable and the funds are there, and everybody makes their own decisions, right? You decide that you want to curl for a couple years. You can get the sponsorships are there if you want to get them. You literally have to put in the time and the effort to get them, and then you have to go out and play on the tour. And if you're good enough, you win. If you're not, you won't. And away we go.
Right. It's true. You get out what you put in, I guess. And some guys aren't just going to have the time. We all make choices in life, I guess.
And I hear that argument all the time. Well, it's not fair because you're a well-funded team. You can go out and play in the West, and we're as good as you are if we had the funding that you did. Well, last time I checked, like I say, you didn't call too many other people that are 2-time world champions for their interviews. Right? If they're that good, they would be as well. So.
Uh-oh. Now I've got to really review my interview selection process. Well, hey, Wayne, thanks for your time. Thanks for the early start in the show. You helped me out a lot when being the first guy on. I always appreciate that, and good luck the rest of the way.
Dean, it was my pleasure, and like I say, I still remember those games playing against you back in juniors, so anytime I can help you out, I will. All
right, well, if I need a spare sometime for a big New Jersey spiel, I might have to call you.
Well, you can give me a call. Lino Diorio did that, and Mike Hay, and they're taking me over to Scotland the first week in January to play over there. So.
Oh, really? Well, I intend to dominate all 2 sheets of New Jersey curling. No, we got a good club down here anyway.
I like your odds anyways.
Sorry?
I like your odds.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Wayne. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's Wayne Middaugh on The Curling Show. Well, thanks for listening. Here's as close as it gets to holiday black pudding.